Japanese brutality, and the thought of returning to the control of another foreign occupier after the war was unacceptable. Sukarno and Muhammad Hatta declared Indonesians' independence on August 17, 1945, just 2 days after Japan's formal surrender. A protracted political and armed conflict with the Dutch followed, as the European power made a futile attempt to reassert its control. Western New Guinea, usually just called Papua, or West Irian to Indonesians, sat oddly in the decolonization process. With a relatively small native population, an even smaller Dutch presence, and no real representation in Indonesia's independence movement, nor Dutch administration, the voice and perspective of its people was largely ignored. Indonesia's view at first was mixed. Hatta's initial thoughts were that Papua should be independent, saying that it should be left to the Papuan people themselves. I recognize that the Papuans have the right to be an independent nation. This opinion did not win out. A hardening attitude to the Dutch and the discovery of oil made it impossible for Indonesia to pass up the area they dubbed West Irian. The 1946 Ling 8, the British colonized some parts of the eastern island, but the Germans also muscled in for their short-lived colonial empire and carved off a chunk too. That was until 1914, when the First World War broke out, and the British, or more accurately Australian troops fighting for the British Empire, captured it from them. After the war, Australia took control of the eastern half, and, aside from Japanese occupation during the Second World War, they remained under Australian control until their independence as Papua New Guinea in 1975. In contrast, Western New Guinea would have a much rougher experience, as its Dutch colonial masters relinquished their overseas empire. The island of New Guinea today belongs to Papua New Guinea, named for the native Papuans who call it home. So why does Indonesia control the West? In this video, we'll talk about how colonization, diplomacy, and island under the Indonesian flag. The Papuans were a relatively small population, living mostly in the island's center. With no great cities, the Europeans didn't think much of them. The Spanish named the island New Guinea, since it reminded them of Guinea and Africa, but mostly left it alone. That changed with the Dutch, who arrived permanently in the 19th century. They already controlled much of the East Indies and set up a few small ports